Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hello there everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I thought it would be fun to do a little Q&A. It's been a while since I've done one of these and I just always have a lot of fun with them. So I asked the other day over on Instagram if you all had any questions, and there were so many amazing ones, but I pared it down to this handful and I am very excited to get into this. So without further ado, let's get started. So first question, what makes one a green witch rather than another kind of witch? This is a fantastic question, and one that I think is going to be answered differently depending on who you are and how your practice is. Everybody's practice who identifies as a green witch is completely different, but typically a green witch is a witch that works primarily with plants. They're absolutely welcome to work with other forms of the craft, with crystals or with fire and candles, but the primary backing is most typically herbs. How long have you studied herbalism? Top 5 herbs for beginners to start with. So I have studied herbalism for over 10 years now, but very seriously for about 6 or 7. And even more seriously over the last 5. But I also grew up around it, and it's something that has just kind of been a part of my life forever. I primarily have studied through the Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine, and I've also taken background courses from smaller areas or just little things here and there. I also have read a bajillion books on the subject and continue to do so. Really, I don't think you can ever be overeducated on the topic. And to pick 5 herbs for a beginner is honestly kind of tricky. I want to go with my gut that is herbs that are fairly easy to get to know and to work with. So peppermint, chamomile, lavender, echinacea is a good one, and so is yarrow. I feel so limited by 5, but those are good ones that come to mind right away. However, I also love holy basil. I know that's 6. And rose, and elderberry, which maybe isn't super beginner friendly, but if you spend time on it, it can be. Ginger's also great. And honestly, okay, I'll end it here. Any of the common kitchen herbs that you have in your cabinet are great places to start. And tea herbs. So whatever is there and inspires you, those are food safe and friendly, so you are going to be pretty safe working with them, and they have wonderful medicinal benefits. Just taking a trip to either the tea aisle or a tea cabinet in your house and start from there. I think that's where my biggest recommendation is, beyond the ones I mentioned before. Now, before we go any further, this video is sponsored. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is a website building and hosting company, and as I'm currently working on putting up a website, it is very exciting to get to partner with them. With Fluid Engine, a next-generation website design system from Squarespace, it's never been easier for anyone to unlock creative design. You get to start with a best-in-class website template and customize every detail with reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop or mobile. You can stretch your imagination when it comes to online design with Fluid Engine, built in and ready to go on any new Squarespace site. One thing I really love about Squarespace is their flexible website template. You get to get started with one of their professional website templates with designs for every category and use case. Then customize your look, update the content, and add features to fit your unique needs. You can make any Squarespace template do what you want, so your idea, brand, or business stands out online on every device and can be as unique to you as you dream. Another thing that I really love about Squarespace is the ease of working an online store. Whether you sell physical, digital, or service products, Squarespace has the tools you need to start selling online. So if this sounds interesting to you, go to squarespace.com/thegreenwitch to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring, and let's get back to the video. What herbs are you wanting to work with this autumn and winter? So in the autumn and winter, I tend to shift over toward honestly things that maybe aren't considered herbs, but are considered them sometimes in witchcraft. But herb-wise, I am really looking forward to working with elderberry and ginger specifically. I also love cinnamon and clove and nutmeg. I also want to spend a little more time on oranges and apples and pumpkins in this time. Oh, and blackberry. Lots of blackberry things. I think those are the big ones. How to trust your path when it looks so different from the others. This, I think, is a fantastic question. I loved this one. So it can be really tricky. I know when I first began and found a rhythm and a practice that felt right to me, it didn't really look like all of the other ones that I saw. My practice is very medicinally based. It's very scientific a lot of the time, and that doesn't always work with what I've seen of magic and witchcraft and things like that. And it took some time for me to feel comfortable in that. But ultimately I realized that working in a way that felt comfortable and good to me fed way more power into what I was doing. If you're doing something that feels like you should be doing it, but you don't feel good about it, it's not going to be as effective to you. Your path should be a reflection of yourself, of your interests, of the things that inspire you. And everybody is inspired and interested in different things. So as long as it feels good to you and like something that is a reflection of you, then you're on the right path. It can be hard to accept that, but with time and giving yourself the space to feel a little uncomfortable sometimes and also accept your own differences and interests and the path that you have forged for yourself, it becomes comfortable and it becomes known and it'll be good. Nobody's path is exactly the same. It's perfectly fine for yours to be very different. It's just important that it feels right to you. Any tips for growing herbs in an apartment? The main ones, grow them by a window if you can. I have a fire escape that a lot of my herbs live on, and beyond that, most of them are in the windows. If your windows don't give you enough light, you can also get grow lights, just light bulbs that you can put into a different lamp and make it look cuter if you don't want the traditional grow light setup. That can help a lot, and just kind of taking care of them the way you otherwise would. They won't thrive the same way in an apartment, but they will still grow and be pretty happy. This guy right here is my oregano plant and is very happy, even though it's kind of tucked in a corner. Sure, it would probably be bigger outside, but it does well enough here. Often I found that it just takes setting them in one place, seeing how they do, and maybe moving them about depending on how they're doing. Maybe they'll thrive better somewhere else. It's trial and error, and usually I like to have a couple more plants than I typically would think I'd need, just because they're a little bit slower growing. But as long as they have light and you take care of them, they can thrive, just in more of an apartment-y way. How do you connect to nature when you're in a highly populated city? So this is also a great question. The biggest thing that I found is to find some good parks that are ideally walking distance, but if they aren't, easily drivable or public transitable. Take a walk there whenever you can. And beyond that, I am also fortunate enough to be able to leave the city, and I usually do leave the city once or twice a week to go to the cabin or into the mountains, and that's a big part of it. It is hard. I do feel like a visitor always, everywhere I go, and it is something that has made my path a lot harder to connect to, but this is where I live right now, and it's not going to change anytime soon. And even though it lacks the connection to nature that I wish I could have, it's okay, and supplementing it in these visitor ways gets me through it. And I think depending on your living situation, if living in the city is necessary or something that you prefer, accessing nature in a visitor way can be just as beautiful. And one thing that can help is having a regular place that you go to often and bringing gifts or giving water or little things, communing. It helps a lot to work on building a relationship even through just visiting. But finding little pockets helps. And even if your pocket is just one tree that you go and visit, that's enough. Favorite tea blend for intuition and divination? I don't currently have a blend for this, but I do have a couple herbs that I would recommend for it. My all-time favorite is mugwort. It is the best divinatory aid I've personally ever found. And outside of that, I would also recommend next yarrow and then thyme. Now, all of these are fantastic divinatory aids when ingested in tea form. They don't come without their risks. None of these should be ingested during pregnancy. Thyme you can in small quantities, but the other two are not safe. So there is that limitation with them, but beyond that, they are very safe herbs to work with and drink as tea. Alrighty, continuity error alert. My camera, the other one I primarily film with, died halfway through filming this video when I was still in Washington. And now I am visiting home in Virginia. And so I realized that I needed to finish out this video here. And yeah, we will just have a little bit of a fun change of scenery here. But with that out of the way, let's jump back into the video. So our next question is actually pretty perfect. When will your book be available to buy? So here is my book. I just did a video sharing more about it in depth if you're interested. I'll link that up above and down below. But my book will be available on October 17th in the US and about 6 weeks later everywhere else. But if you'd like to, you can pre-order it now. It'll show up on your door on the 17th. And I'll have all of that linked down below in the description. Do you have a favorite part of your book, and do you recommend any books? I do. So I think my personal favorite part of my book is, well, I guess I have a couple. I'm really proud of the sections on intent and intuition, but I think the most applicable piece that I constantly find myself turning to is a section in the middle that is just a bunch of base recipes for spells and medicinal preparations. So this is as simple as a base recipe for a spell bag or jar, all the way to how to craft a herbal syrup. And it's so fun and has all of the in-depth understandings that you need to craft any of these different kinds of things. And I spent a lot of time on it and feel really good about it. It's something I reference often in my own life still. Mainly for the medicinal recipes, but I find it to be a pretty valuable tool, and I hope you all will too. And for recommending books, as far as green witchcraft stuff goes, I always love Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, and I am also a big fan of The Herbal Alchemist. I don't remember who that is by, but it's another really good one that changed a lot of my perspectives and understandings on the way we classify plants in magic. So those would be my recommendations. What is your main source of motivation for doing mundane tasks? I love this question. This is something I thought a lot on. I often struggle with motivation for mundane tasks, but I've been able to find a better rhythm in doing them when I look at it as this kind of practice for building better energy. Often I think of a mundane task kind of like doing the dishes or cleaning the house and the upkeep of life that isn't the most exciting but allows things to continue flowing better. And it's something that I've had to reframe from a task that is boring and I don't really want to do it to something that is this kind of moment to be still and slow and appreciate my space. And sure, sometimes it's not so fun to be still or slow in those moments, but it's an effort towards building a better future to some extent, even if it's just a small bit of future. Having a clean house feels really good. Having enough food to make all of the different recipes you want to feels good. It's the pieces of upkeep that allow you to feel better, and I think looking at it as a growth toward that has helped me a lot. What's your favorite herb and why? So this one, I have always struggled with picking a favorite one, but I think as it is this fall time of year, the one I find myself working with the most is usually elderberry. It is a wonderful medicinal herb, and it also is a fantastic magical one. I love it for its immune support, and it's also a very protective herb, which is perfect for this time of year. I'm interested in your birth chart. I think, talked about this once many years ago, so I figured it was about time to talk about it again. So I guess I can just give you my big three and let you all decide. But I am a Scorpio sun, a Pisces moon, and a Taurus rising. I personally feel like they all make a lot of sense, and when I read my full birth chart, I cannot believe how much it makes sense. But I'll let you all decide for yourselves what you think about that. What's your favorite go-to stress relief scented candle? I make my own candles, and honestly, my favorite one is either a lavender blend that I have or a rose blend that I do with the gardenia. I really feel like you can't go wrong with either of those. They're just so peaceful and almost sleepy. The lavender is sleepy, but the rose just kind of brings on such tranquility. I wouldn't want anything different for a day where I really want peace. The stories behind your tattoos. Oh, you're so sweet. So I have a lot of tattoos, but I imagine the ones you're asking about are my ravens, which one of them is under here, and this is the one you often see. So I got them to tie back to Norse mythology, Odin's ravens. There's a lot of symbolism behind them for myself, but that's the root of them. And the rest of my tattoos all tie to folklore or the magic of herbs. I have them for the purpose of gaining knowledge, for protection, or to enhance energy and working. I plan on getting more tattoos of this in the same vein of tattoos that symbolize the pursuits that I have in life, mainly with more herbs and creatures, but all of them tie to folklore and their magical interpretations. I would like to do a video at some point in the future that really dives deep into them, but I want to wait till I have a few more that I've been waiting on before I do that. Do you still plan on moving to the Northeast? At this point, yeah, I do. I think it will still be some time. There's a lot keeping me in the West right now, and as much as I think I feel pretty ready to move east, I also am not fully ready to leave that area yet. So there's some conflicting feelings there for sure. I think I need to start making more of an effort to adventure and visit the Northeast in this time in between. While it will still be some time, that is where I would like to at least ideally end up and settle down, I think. And finally, where do you get all of your pretty bowls and the mugs in your videos? So all of the pottery that I have is handmade from local artists, most of them in the area that I grew up in, and the rest are from just people that I've found at art shows or local galleries. I like to pick things made by people that really love what they do. Most of them are pretty one of a kind, but they mimic the style of the artists that they're from. So if you want similar ones, I'd recommend looking locally and finding people in your area that are passionate about making pottery. It's definitely not the most affordable way of gaining a collection of bowls and mugs and things, but I've been collecting them for a decade now, and it is really special to me. And I feel like in that amount of time, it's easy enough to be open to paying more for a piece of art that you're gonna have forever. And that's the last question. I love doing Q&As. There's something that is a good little palette cleanser, I feel like. Something peaceful and just comfortable. I like getting to chat with you. Like I said earlier, if you wanna pre-order my book, it'll be out in less than a month now, and all of that stuff will be linked down below. It's very exciting. And beyond that, if you want to check out my Patreon, I'll have that link down below, and also my vlog channel if that's interesting to you. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely, lovely day, and I can't wait to see you again soon.